Welcome to The Real News. I'm Jessel Noor. Baltimore's police force has been described as one of the most corrupt in the country. And now local activists are seeking an injunction against its spy plane program, what's been described as an unconstitutional power grab by authorities who have a long history of surveilling activists, violating constitutional rights, and engaging in broad and brazen corruption. Well, now joining us to discuss this is Brandon Soderberg. He's the co-author of the forthcoming book, I Got a Monster, The Rise and Fall of America's Most Corrupt Police Squad. His co-author is Baynard Woods. So, Brandon, you've been following this issue really closely for years. Police say spy planes are a tool needed to fight crime. But this latest iteration was approved with little public input, and now local activists in the ACLU are suing to stop it. Talk about why they're concerned.
Right. So without going into the long tail of this plane really briefly, this surveillance plane, which flies over Baltimore, covering about 30 square miles at a time, it first flew totally in secret in 2016. No one knew other than the police. I don't believe even city council or the state's attorney's office knew. At some point, the mayor found out about it. So this flew as a test, an illegal secret test in 2016. And the idea is that it can capture above ground everything that's happening. You can rewind and fast forward that footage. You can zoom in on it. And that can be used as an investigative tool towards solving crime, especially violent crimes, shootings, non-fatal shootings, carjackings, those kinds of things. Of course, when this thing, which is created by a military technologist who tried to put it in Dayton, Ohio, and Compton in the past, both of them said no. When it was revealed, there was kind of this massive outrage, as there should have been, that, hey, we weren't told about this thing. You know, this thing flew throughout the year. It recorded some protests as well. It was used to sort of fly over protests on top of all these other things. And the argument at the time was it didn't solve a lot of crimes. In a previous Real News segment, I talked about how I found out that it captured a police shooting. Then the police kind of conveniently ignored that it captured a police shooting. And what it captured actually really undid what the police had claimed had happened during the shooting. And that didn't come out for years. So the plane doesn't have a great record of doing much.
Wait, so Brandon, just to emphasize that point, there was evidence that police had lied, basically lied and misled the public about an incident in which they were involved in, and they had the evidence and they covered it up for years.
Yeah, they just kind of ignored it and said it didn't show what it showed. And I say this so confidently because I've seen the footage, and it shows police lying about the nature of the stop, in which ended with a man being shot. And the guy survived the shooting, but he also did about 3 years for a gun they said they found on him after the shooting. The officers involved in this turned out to be part of this gun trace task force, sort of notorious police scandal of dirty cops. So fast forward, there was kind of, after this sort of breach of trust by the public who were frustrated by the launch of this plane in secret, and the ACLU addressing it, activists addressing it, the plane was sort of pushed a few more times over the past few years, including at some point as a deterrent against 30 cops. People didn't really buy it. Cut to 2019, last year, we had another sort of spike in homicides yet again, or a spike on top of a spike. And then it was sort of brought up again, hey, we need the spy plane. And a lot of sort of white-collar business types really pushed it, because I think they can really say to investors and developers, hey, we got this plane, we have this top-tier technology, it's going to stop crime, and it kind of reduces this concern by rich people about crime in Baltimore. Then they'll want to invest. So really had this push by investors and developers and sort of liberal foundations. And then, but it still was kind of debatable, and there was a poll that was really a kind of phony poll about it, and then it felt like it died. And then suddenly at the end of the year, the police had a press conference and were just like, this plane's going up in May. It's going up. We're announcing it. This is a pilot program. We need to test if it works. And kind of conveniently ignored that they already tested it in 2016 in secret, and it didn't do very much. So people were kind of surprised by this and shocked by this. Then it sort of again died down as people kind of just pondered what it meant. The police promised transparency, accountability, all the sort of buzzwords, which at least seemed like, hey, they're not flying in secret this time, so that's an improvement, right? And they said they were going to have these series of public events where people would come. Now, the limitations of those kind of public events are what they are, because they're held by the police, they're moderated by the police, and they're sort of police are determining the storyline kind of at those things. I've been to enough of them to know, but okay, fair enough. They're at least going to do that. Then what happens is they have one of these town halls on, I think, early March, mid-March, right before kind of COVID-19 really put us all inside. And about 20 people showed up. I didn't go to it for that exact reason. I didn't feel great about being in a room with maybe 30 or 40 people. And this is like March 14th or 17th, something like that. So then the police were like, okay, the next two meetings will be online. So those were online. They weren't particularly publicized. Then the police were also like, oh, and heads up, we're trying to really push this thing out even sooner. So all of this kind of quick move in which it didn't even have the basic accountability that it was supposed to have, the memorandum of understanding that would sort of show how the police and the privately owned plane would interrupt, how they'd interact, and who would have access to the footage. That was not going to be shown until after it was voted. Council President and mayoral candidate Brandon Scott, who's really been against the plane, leaked the memorandum of understanding, make sure people had it, which is a pretty bold thing to do. All that sort of bubbled and bubbled. It still got passed through the Board of Estimates. It was going to launch, and then this ACLU lawsuit dropped. And that lawsuit just says, ACLU saying what they've been saying for almost 4 years now. This thing's fraught. It's a problem. It's recording everybody all the time. It's an unprecedented kind of form of surveillance. And then it's also signed off by a few activists, including Erica Bridgeford of the legendary ceasefire movement of the past few years, members of Leaders of Beautiful Struggle, and also the rapper and activist Son of None, who all sort of said, hey, look, it's kind of Orwellian technology that we don't trust the police with. And Erica Bridgeford in particular, who's been working towards addressing the homicide rate in non-carceral ways, was basically like, this is a massive waste of money. There's so many better, smarter things to invest money into if you want to stop homicides than a spy plane.
I mean, it's crazy because Baltimore spends more per capita than any large city already on policing. And that's clearly not worked. And you have ceasefire, you mentioned Erica Bridgeford, and that is statistically shown to drop homicides something like 20, 30% over the course of a weekend, or even longer than that. So, yeah, I mean, and also the concerns about the fact that this is a totally, I mean, you know, scandal after scandal, the corruption, the surveilling of activists, and you know, just the lawless behavior of the Baltimore Police Department, which you have a book coming out about. That has a lot of people concerned, and the fact that this police force is not actually accountable to the people. It's, you know, it's still a state agency, which allows them to, you know, not have many checks and balances on their power from the public.
Yeah, I mean, in Baltimore, we have a very strange thing where the Baltimore police are a state-run agency, so city government actually has very little control. A couple of years ago, there was a city council meeting about the surveillance plane, and city council did it because it was requested. But again, Councilman Brandon Scott, Councilman Ryan Dorsey, a couple other people were really just being like, this is just a big show because we'll have this meeting because you've asked us to do it. And we'll discuss this thing, but we have actually no control. We can't vote for or against it. It's entirely up to the commissioner and the mayor, who really only answer to the state. We have a Republican governor who's, you know, threatened to bring the feds into Baltimore every time there's a shooting. So it's pretty much that the deck was stacked. So this ACLU lawsuit has really sort of undercut at the kind of last moment for this thing to go through. And I believe that right now, that until there's a hearing later in April about the plane, it's at least sort of at a standstill, which maybe will at least give the people behind it, if I'm being very generous in good faith, a moment to reconsider the launch. I mean, I just stress that, like, even if you put aside all of one's concerns about the plane, it's just amazing how allergic to accountability and transparency the city is, this department is, and seemingly the people involved with this plane are. That they have this plane that they argue, what do you have to worry about to record everybody? But every single element of it has just been messed up or bundled or done in bad faith, and sort of ceasing to have these basic, pretty much dog and pony show kind of town hall meetings, and then saying, oh, we can't have them because of COVID-19, we'll still push it all through, is really disheartening. I kind of expected a little better out of the police, actually.
And that's saying a lot. So Brandon Soderberg, co-author of the forthcoming book that a lot of people are excited about with Baynard Woods. I Got a Monster, The Rise and Fall of America's Most Corrupt Police Squad. And that's dropping around July. Is that right?
July 21st.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, we're looking forward to having you both on to talk about that.
Great.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us at the Real News Network.
Thanks a lot for watching. Appreciate it. But do us one more solemn favor. Hit the subscribe button below. You know you want to. Stay up on the videos.